Welcome to episode 5 of Mortal Musings, that chronicle my thoughts, feelings, and activities during my fight with terminal cancer, in this case, transitional cell carcinoma. Since I last talked to you, I've kind of gotten a little bit better handle on my prognosis, which is not good. Uh, Even with treatment, estimates on my life expectancy probably range from 2 to 5 years, and that's being optimistic. So we know we're in an uphill battle on this thing. But I remain resolute and optimistic that I'm going to beat this thing. I do believe in miracles. I've experienced them myself in the past, and I'm firmly convinced that I'm going to live a much longer life than anybody thinks, maybe to the regret of some people. But I intend to be here. A lot has happened since the last time I talked to you. Um, Mostly positive. I did have my second chemo a week ago on Friday, and that went well. In fact, after the chemo, I actually was pain-free for a couple of days. But unfortunately, the pain started creeping back. I have had 2 family visits, both my sisters. One came for the first or the second chemo, and actually was a big help because she was able to take me to Atlanta as my wife had her big fundraising. So it was great to have her here and have her help. And then my other sister, Juliet, came this past weekend, and she was a great help around the house, and just it was just wonderful having them there. The other big news was the fact that I was able to travel. I made my first business trip last week, going back to Texas, and where you know I actually had an interview for another management opportunity, and we also was able to go to the course that we're currently managing, so I was able to go there. And psychologically, I think that was tremendously helpful to actually be productive again, to go out into the field and be working was wonderful. So it gave me a psychological boost, even though it was completely exhausting, and I know I did too much and probably paying for it because I got home, I was not only exhausted, but I was hurting. But it was a very successful trip, and I'm very happy that I got to make that trip. The other thing that happened for me is that I was able to have laser surgery on my left eye, which is my good eye. I had had cataract surgery a couple of years ago, and apparently a membrane had formed over where the cataract was. And so my vision had just gotten horrible, almost as bad as it was before the cataract. So they put me in laser. It took 5 minutes, and zap, 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 and now I can see wonderfully. Gosh, it's been wonderful. I don't even have to use my reading glasses to work on the computer, and the TV is once again high def. In fact, the world is high def. It's been amazing. Although the actual procedure felt like I was the screen on a video game. You know, she sat back there going zap, 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 and clicking. Uh, but anyway, it was a minor procedure, easy in, easy out. I can see, so yay. One uh, impact of the chemo that I would like to share with you, because it was totally unexpected, uh, is after the chemo, and for several days, and probably almost, I guess, 4 or 5 days afterwards, I found myself extremely jittery. It's almost like I was back on Adderall, which I used to take for my ADD. Just really, really jittery. And emotionally, I was just frayed. Um, People tell me it's very much like a woman going through an extreme PMS, because I was just extremely emotional and had almost, well, I would say no control over those emotions. So I became extremely agitated, and I was snapping at people all over the place, which unfortunately not only included my poor wife, but included the people that I work with at the golf course, which I deeply regret, but I just had no filter. I had no control over it. And I've since been told that that's probably due to the fact that with one of the drugs I got on chemo, that they likely pumped me full of steroids. And those steroids can have that effect. So unfortunately, it did leave me raw emotionally. On the positive side, I don't feel that way now, although I'm still, I think, a lot more emotional than I was before the cancer, and certainly show it more, but not nearly as much as I was after the chemo. However, that kind of leads into the subject I really wanted to talk about, and that's the impact on family. Not just how it affects me personally, but how it affects my wife, my kids, my extended family. Of course, I I am very, very fortunate to have the family that I do have and the support from that family. I can't even imagine how horrible it would be to face this alone, or to face this disease with little support from family and friends. And I can easily see how people could give up in those circumstances and not be willing to fight. But when you have the love and the support of so many people, it certainly helps give you strength and motivation to fight this thing. Uh, you know, and again, it's just impossible for me to imagine what it would be like without that. And I am very, very thankful that I do have it. At the same time, I am extremely sensitive and aware of the fact that my condition is having a horrible impact on those that I love and care about the most. Because after all, they're losing their husband, their father, their close friend, their brother. Um, and I know how I would feel if I were in those shoes, and it's not pleasant. Uh, and it's deeply disturbing to me that I'm having to put them through this. And I know, at least in my wife's situation, she can't help but feel guilty, in addition to all her other feelings. That it's like, why is it happening to him? Why isn't it happening to me instead? And at the same turn, I feel guilty because I'm putting her through this. And so you add these extra emotions to the equation, and it just creates a very raw situation to where you know deep down that the love and support is there, but it can't help but bubble over at times to where you get upset, easily upset at each other, because the emotions are just so raw and without relief. And there's not a lot of time to get used to the idea, and there's not a lot of time to really um, know how to handle the situation. After all, it's not something, well, you hope to heck it's not something you have to go through on a repeated basis. So how do you handle it? Well, it would be wonderful if I had all the answers, but unfortunately, I don't. All I can tell you is the most important word and the most important thought is patience and perspective. What I talked about in my last episode, because you know that they're going through a tough time, just like I'm going through a tough time. And so you have to be patient. You have to understand the emotions are there, and that no matter what they say or in the act of anger, they're lashing out not at you as a person, but at the situation, at the tough luck that we find ourselves in. And I have to be patient with them just like they have to be patient with me, and know that this is all artificial, that what is really important is the deep love that we have and the connection that we have, and we power through it. And fortunately, Holly is much like me in that she'll get upset, but she'll get over it quickly, and I know that, and I know that when I go through the same things, hopefully, she's as understanding of my situation as I'm of hers, and I think that's the case. And that's what's important, is that we just have a lot of patience and with each other, and look at it from the perspective of, yeah, this is artificial, this is a unique situation we're thrown into, but we'll get through it, we'll make it. And you can't be worrying about what may happen or even what's likely to happen, because that's just extending the misery. The more we think about, oh, I may not be around for 2 years, in 2 years' time, or less, unfortunately. If I dwell on that, that's extending the misery. I'm just being miserable for longer. Let's keep our eye on the prize, and the prize in this case is survival, and staying around as long as possible, and not worrying about what is down the road, which hopefully will be a long way down the road, and let's concentrate on the here and now. I think that above all else has become far more important to me. Of course, part and parcel with this is the financial burden, because that adds to the emotions and certainly adds to the stress of the entire situation. On the one hand, I'm fortunate to be in a decent financial situation, not great, but not bad. Of course, we don't know how much of the medical costs are going to be absorbed by insurance, which fortunately, again, we've got decent insurance. But we also know that they don't cover everything, and there's still deductibles and all of that stuff. But we should be able to handle that. And, I am due an inheritance from my father, which I'll get probably before the end of the year. Again, it's not much, but it'll handle what I would hope we may need. On the other hand, I've got life insurance, so I know my kids and my wife will be taken care of after I'm gone, and that's important to me. So then it becomes a question of, how do we budget the money? Well, I don't have to worry about saving for retirement. That doesn't look like that's going to happen, and quite honestly, I never saw myself retiring anyway, because I enjoy the work that I'm doing. But I do hope that it allows me to do the things I really want to do between now and then, and that's doing a lot more traveling, seeing not only my kids, but my family in England, who I haven't seen in 40 years, seeing more of the country, although I've been very fortunate to see a lot of the country in my work. But it's very different when you're traveling for work, when traveling for pleasure. So, that's all part of it. Taking time to enjoy the world, enjoy my family, enjoy my friends, and budget so that I don't spend everything. I got to keep my family's needs, and hey, I plan on sticking around for a while, so you can't spend everything. But at the same time, let's not go out with with a lot of regrets either. Anyway, that's enough droning on for one episode. Thank you for listening, and hope you'll tune in later. Thanks.